Senator John Kennedy asked one question on September 16, 2025. Kash Patel answered in one word. And that word, said on the record under oath, may be the most consequential single word spoken in any Epstein hearing in years. This video is different from everything else on this subject, because the man asking the question is not a Democrat. He is from the same party as Patel, the same party as Trump, and he is still not satisfied. Stay with this. The word Patel used is only the beginning, because the real story is not what Patel said. It is why Kennedy refused to accept it. Jeffrey Epstein ran a trafficking operation that reached presidents, princes, and billionaires. He operated for decades. He moved through the most powerful rooms on earth without consequence. He was prosecuted once and walked away with a county jail sentence and work release 6 days a week. He died on August 10, 2019, in a federal prison cell, officially ruled a suicide. For years, one question has refused to close. Not how he built his network, not how he escaped prosecution for so long. The question is simpler. Who else was involved? Who did Epstein traffic those women to besides himself? That is what survivors have testified about under oath. That is what sealed court documents have been fighting to reveal. That is what congressional committees have subpoenaed records over. That is the question that has never received a clean public answer. And on September 16, 2025, Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana walked to his microphone and asked it directly. He didn't soften it. He didn't bury it in legal language. He looked at FBI Director Kash Patel and said, "You've seen most of the files. Who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these young women to?" Besides himself, the room went still. Patel leaned forward. One word came out: himself. Just that. Himself. No client list, no network, no names. In the FBI's official position, stated under oath before the United States Senate, Jeffrey Epstein trafficked young women to one person, himself. Patel followed it immediately. There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday. Think about what that sentence means. A Trump-appointed FBI director is saying on the record that the client list millions of people have demanded for years does not exist in any credible form. That is the official position of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, stated under oath. That should have ended the exchange. But Kennedy wasn't finished. And here is where the hearing turned into something no one expected. Kennedy is a Republican. He supports this administration. He has no political reason to attack Patel publicly in a Republican-controlled committee room, and yet he pushed back, calmly, specifically, like a man who has read the same documents and is not fully satisfied with what they say. The central question for the American people, Kennedy said, is this. They know Epstein trafficked young women. What they want to know is whether he trafficked them to anyone else. He wasn't accusing Patel of lying. He was doing something more precise than that. He was delivering a message to Patel, to the committee, to everyone watching. That message was, one word is not enough. That message was, the public will not accept this. That message was, the pressure is not ending here. I strongly encourage you to do that, Kash, Kennedy said, referring to the release of additional files. This issue is not going to go away. A Republican senator telling Trump's own FBI director that the investigation is not done. Why? What does Kennedy know that Patel's single word doesn't explain? To answer that, you have to go back 19 years. Because the problem with the Epstein files is not only what they contain. The problem is what was never put into them. In 2006, federal prosecutors in Florida investigated Epstein under Alexander Acosta, the U.S. attorney at the time. Acosta reached a non-prosecution agreement with Epstein's lawyers. That deal would shape every investigation that followed. Under that agreement, Epstein pleaded guilty to 2 state charges. He served 13 months in a county jail, with work release 6 days a week. Federal prosecution was dropped entirely. Buried inside that deal was something still shaping the case in 2025. The agreement included only limited search warrants, narrow warrants that did not require agents to seize everything. Those gaps, created by a prosecutorial decision in 2006, are still defining what the FBI can and cannot access about Epstein's network nearly 2 decades later. The files that exist are not a full investigation. They are the files that Acosta's deal allowed to be created. Think about what that means for every answer given at every Epstein hearing since 2019. Every official who said the investigation found nothing was answering a different question. They were saying, within the material collected under a limited 2006 warrant, nothing credible was found. That is not the same as saying nothing happened. Kash Patel said it himself, and he said it twice, both in his opening statement and under direct questioning. The original sin in the Epstein case was the way it was initially brought by Mr. Acosta back in 2006. He called it the original sin. He repeated that phrase on purpose. Now read Kennedy's pushback again with that in mind. The FBI is not saying the trafficking network didn't exist. They are saying the evidence that would prove it was never fully collected. The deal Acosta struck in 2006 didn't just protect Epstein from federal charges. It may have permanently limited what any future investigation could ever legally establish. That is a profoundly different statement than saying nothing happened. That is the loop that cannot close. Kennedy asks who Epstein trafficked to. Patel says himself, because the files contain no credible evidence of anyone else. But the reason the files contain no credible evidence may be that Acosta's deal prevented investigators from collecting it in the first place. The absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Kennedy knows that. That is exactly why he pushed, and it is why this moment, a Republican pressing a Republican, matters more than any partisan hearing ever could, because it removes the easy explanation. This is not about politics. This is about a question that the current files, by design, cannot fully answer. Survivors of Epstein's trafficking have testified under oath that they were trafficked to other individuals. Court documents reference names, many still sealed as of September 2025. An appeals court ruled in early 2025 that certain transcripts would eventually be released, but judges stated those documents would contain no meaningful new information, which immediately raised a question no one in that courtroom answered. How can a judge determine what is meaningful before the documents are opened? The House Oversight Committee subpoenaed multiple individuals in September 2025. They obtained documents from Epstein's private estate, including a book of birthday messages. The investigation was ongoing, and Donald Trump, whose administration appointed Kash Patel, publicly called the Epstein files a dead issue. His position was clear: this story is over. Move on. Kennedy did not move on. He had been in that committee room before. He had heard officials give careful, lawyered answers before, and he has a particular way of making clear, without raising his voice, that he is not done. This is the tension this hearing produced. Not Democrats demanding answers, not a partisan attack. A Republican senator in a Republican-controlled committee pressing a Republican-appointed FBI director for answers that the Republican president has tried to permanently close. That specific combination had never appeared in an Epstein hearing before September 16, 2025. Kennedy was not performing for cameras. He was not building a clip. He was sending a message to his own party's leadership that the public knows the difference between limited search warrants and a closed case. And Patel understood it. He didn't call Kennedy's questions false information, the way he did with Democratic senators that same morning. He sat with the pressure and accepted it. Two men from the same party, both aware that the file between them is not fully closed, both aware that neither of them, on September 16, 2025, has the authority to make it fully open. What Kennedy knows, what Patel knows, what the sealed documents may or may not contain, none of it was resolved that day. What was resolved is narrower, but permanent. The question is now on the official Senate record, asked by a senator, answered by an FBI director, under oath, on camera, preserve forever in the transcript of the United States Senate Judiciary Committee. That cannot be redacted. That cannot be quietly reassigned to a lower classification level. It exists. Now go back to where this started. Remember the question Kennedy asked: who did Epstein traffic those women to, besides himself? And remember the one word: himself. That word is either the truth that finally closes a decade-long mystery, or it is the most carefully constructed non-answer in recent Senate history, technically accurate only because the evidence to prove otherwise was never legally collected. Both cannot be true at the same time. As of September 16, 2025, both remain possible, and the only way to know which is true would require opening the files that a 2006 deal made permanently incomplete. Senator Kennedy's final words to Kash Patel that morning were 6 words. 6 words that are now part of the permanent Senate record. 6 words that no administration has yet been able to make false. This issue is not going to go away. He was right. It hasn't.